So what's up to all the bass players out there? Shut this AC off. Yeah. So I want to talk about when you get a new gig and you need to find out what's going on. Where are you playing? When are you playing? Who are you playing with? How is this going to happen? What are the songs? You want to know the attire, and you also know you want to know how you're getting paid. So let's start with the where. I'm sorry, rather, let's start with the when. Everybody's going to give you the date because they need to know that they can count on you to be there, that you're going to block off that time to be there for that gig. Now, it might be one date, it might be multiple dates. You need to find out for sure. And if they have a confirmation, they may not have a confirmation yet. They're in talks. You also need to know the load-in time, which means that's basically the 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 time that you need to be there. That's the latest that you need to be there to bring in your equipment. Now, this load-in time may just means you bring it into the building. You might not set it up yet. All right. After that, you need to know the setup time. Like I said, there might be a differentiation between your load-in time and your setup because of other bands. Maybe there's multiple events going on in the same venue. You never know. After that, you want to go over what is the sound or line check. The difference is a line check is just literally making sure that they have sound. They're not checking the volumes. A sound check is where they check the volumes of the mix between the vocals and the mix between the drums and the band and so forth. After that, you need to know the set times. That's you normally a gig is usually about 4 hours. You do about three 50-minute or 60-minute sets. So they'll have three sets usually. And it'll be like, all right, 9 to 9:50 or 10 p.m. Then you get a 15 or 30-minute break. Then it'll be 10 or 10:30 or 10 or 10:30 rather to 11:30 or whatever it is. Okay, and then you have after your set times, you have your loadout times. Sometimes you have other bands going on or other events in the building. It might be like at a wedding, and there's other moving parts, so they need to kind of get out the way. Next, we're gonna go to where. Where am I playing? Speaking of playing in a wedding, you might be playing at a venue that has multiple rooms for events. So you need to know the name of the room. You need to know, first off, you need to know the address. Let's start with there. Where am I playing? What's the address? Not only do you need the address, but you would like the name of the venue. If it's a restaurant, if it's a bar, sometimes you can get that when you Google it, but it's just a quick one because in your head, if they say it's a restaurant, you can kind of already assume or figure out what other questions you need to ask if it's a bar or not. Because if they give you the address, you don't know what kind of venue it is. So you need to know what kind of venue it is and the name of the venue. Um, so we have the name of the event. What is the event being called? I want to know what I'm there for. It'll also give you an understanding of what kind of vibe the whole event is gonna have. Is it a dancing thing? Is it a wedding? Is it a bar? Is it just somebody's background music for a cocktail hour? You know, those things are very helpful to know. Um, it also just gives you kind of an expectation of how you're supposed to behave yourself at these types of events. For the experienced players, you know what I mean. Name of the event. Also, you want to know, like I said, the room of the event. There might be a bar that has multiple stages sometimes, or multiple areas that you can put a performing artist. So you need to know if it's a separate room. You need to know what section of the building is it going to be. Is it the back section? Just a heads up on that. But a lot of times you don't have to ask that up front. You can ascertain that when you get on site. But clarity up front, it just lets them know that you're serious about what you're doing and that you don't want to have any issues when you get there. Rather than having to find the room, you could just ask, I need this room or this area, and they can lead you right there without that extra 3-5 minutes of figuring it out. And then lastly, you want to know, is it indoor, is it outdoor? and the stage location. If it's outdoor, is it going to be covered? That's also a good question. All right, moving forward, we want to know who's this artist that you're playing with. Have you maybe someone that's calling you to play the gig is not the artist themselves. That might be the manager or a friend or one of the band members, and they're just trying to see if you have time available on that same date. And so you need to know who's the artist so you can research that person and look them up. You also need to know if it's a band, what's the band name, and who are the members in the band playing. You want to know also the venue contact. You might get there before anyone in the band, and you might need to know who do I speak to know where to put my things, or when I'm allowed to load in my things, and so forth, or where you're allowed to load in. That's also very crucial to know. Um, Also, the name of the manager. Sometimes there's not always a venue contact. It's like a bar, and it's just whoever's in charge is in charge. Generally, when you have a venue contact, it's the places where they have the weddings at. I forget the name of it right now, but generally, when you have a venue contact, it's like a maitre d' or something. Anyways, then there's, like I said, manager. You also sometimes want to know the engineer's name. Moving forward, I like to know how things are happening. If there is no engineer, which a lot of times there isn't, I like to ask about electricity. How far is it from the stage? How many outlets do you have? Um, if I'm having a large band and or let's say they don't have a PA system, I I'm gonna want to know how much different lines they have. If I have a large band and I need to bring my own PA system, that means I have a PA system drawing power. I got guitar amp drawing power, bass amp drawing power. It might be a keyboard amp drawing power too, and then added with the mics and everything and the speakers that have to project that sound drawing power. That's a lot of power. You might not be able to cut it with two outlets on the same line. You need separate lines a lot of times. Um, Also, you want to know, do they have a PA system or a monitor system? If they have that, they generally have a engineer for for a monitor system. But if they don't, it's always good to learn a little bit about sound engineering and live sound mixing. Just at least the setup of it and the basics of frequencies, uh, busing, monitors, knowing how to control those things is very helpful. You also sometimes want to ask, is there a backline at this venue? If it's a nice venue like a BB King's or something like that, they might already have a bass amp there for you to use. And it's a lot of times, if it's like maybe a festival or something, they'll have multiple bands, so they'll use a backline so they don't have to worry about changing everybody's instrument. Like you don't have to change out the whole drum set because it just saves time. Although it's not the most comfortable thing for the drummers, it's just that's the type of venue or that's the type of gig that it is. So sometimes you might be using a backline. Also, if you're the music director, you're probably gonna want to know, is there a stage plot, or they might want to know if you guys have a stage plot. And there's apps that make stage plots where your artist might prefer the drummer on their right instead of directly behind them, you know. And every band has the right to have a different setup. Every vibe is different. You might need a different setup, like a semicircle type of deal, or sometimes people stack it. However you need to do it, you need to let the venue know going ahead, that you have certain space requirements. You might need uh, a 10 by 8 space for your complete ensemble. So the spacing of where you're going to be at is also crucial. Um, the spacing. When I say the spacing, I mean like the size of the stage. Definitely need to know the size of the stage. I'm gonna have to edit this later. um, where stage location, size. Now we went over the how. Now it's good to know if there's a set or a song list. Pretty much the difference is a set list is this is the order. One, two, three, four, five. A song list is these are the songs. I'm gonna pick them as we go, basically. Um, a set list by an artist. You might have original music. You might have cover songs. You'd like to have either a chart or you need to know the exact artist that cover song is, or you need to know the artist that's doing that cover song, and you need the exact version. Um, you need to know if they're changing any keys um, in any of these songs. Sometimes they'll do a song and forget that they changed the key. Been doing it in this key for so long, they forgot that's not the original key. That happens often. You also need to know, do they have any medleys, any songs that have any special intros or outros where they created their own music to tie songs together or begin the set or end the set. So those are good questions, and obviously you need to know if they have charts. I'll say it again. But for bass players, guys, charts are very easy to read. Generally, if they have a G chord, you're playing a G in the bass. Only time that changes is if it's a G slash B. And whenever it's a slash, it's telling you that you're gonna put that lower note is the bass note, basically, or the second note. So you'll see it like G over B. That's an inverted chord. Sometimes you'll see G over B. Either way, you're gonna put the B in the bass. So it's good to know charts, reading charts, and then also understanding major and minor. G, M, or G dash means G minor. If you just see a G, that means G major. Now you start seeing other things like this, that's a major 7, but we're not getting into all that. This is not what this lesson is about. I don't know why I started racing. Now I have to erase it. I'm just happy to be passing this stuff on because I don't feel like a lot of people talk about this stuff. Um, but I could be wrong about that. I haven't really taken a lot of music lessons or music courses other than college and right before college when I was in high school. Um, Shout out to Scott's bass lessons. I was actually looking into doing lessons with him, and I accidentally signed up for it. I must have been like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning that I'm looking at his website, and somehow I accidentally signed up for it, and they charged my credit card, and I was like, oh God, I didn't mean to do that, and they got me a refund, and I appreciate you guys for that. Also, shout out to Derek Bass Lessons. That dude is a beast. You should definitely check out his videos. He is a technician and he's clean. That's one thing I really need to work on. My clean notes and speed. Um, but anyways, continuing forward, we were talking about songs and charts. Now I'm gonna end off with that. Okay, continuing forward, we're gonna talk about attire. Now the type of gig is gonna tell you what type of attire you're gonna be wearing. Is it a bar? Can I wear jeans? Can I wear shorts? You might be at a bar, but it's a special occasion. You might not be able to get away with the shorts. You know, you need to know these things, and it's just helpful to keep the band as a unit or the group of performers as a unit because you might not always be playing a simple band gig. You might be playing with the dancers. You might be backing up dancers, and they want you to have certain colors on so everything vibes together. I had one artist. She used to bring in a fashion designer, and we'd be dressed to the nines. I remember feeling good about it because I'm from church. I love to dress up. Shout out to Jay De La Fleur. Shout out to Jay De La Fleur. She used to get us dressed up real dope. Um, so yeah, attire is very big. Next thing you want to talk about is um, the crowd expectation, kind of. Like you don't really have to get into that, but you need to be like aware on your own level. You may not have to ask that question directly. A lot of times, like I said, you'll understand the expectation of what your crowd is going to be once you know the type of venue, the type of event, the attire, you know. those things will help you out. And also even just the band or the type of band that you're in will kind of let you know what the vibe is gonna be. There might be cultural differences there. There might be you know, you can't smoke out in the front, you need to smoke out in the back type of deal if you're a cigarette smoker. Um, you know, there's all different types of things. You might not even be able to come out to the back. There might just be a green room area for you to put your things. That's also good to know. Is there an area where I can put my personal items? That's safe, and I don't have to worry about locking into my car and going back to my car just to get something, whether it be my chapstick or whatever the case is. You don't always want to put things in your pockets. Also, things bulging out of your pockets while you're playing is not a good look. Put your phone. Also, when you're playing, you should not have your phone on top of your amp. That is a big no-no. If you need to do that, you generally want to put it on airplane mode. I'm sure people do it all the time, but sometimes it's causing interference and you don't even know it. Alright, and lastly, you want to talk about pay. Now, that is a touchy topic sometimes. Um, Generally, I want to say you should be getting at least $200 for 3 sets. 3 1-hour sets. It's really supposed to be like $50 an hour, $100 an hour for musician, which is kind of crazy because it's been like that for the longest time. It really depends on what you're playing, who you're playing with, and how well you play. And how well you play is really just how clean you are. Nobody's asking for you to do any riffs or tricks and all that stuff. A good bass player holds down the pocket and gets paid well for doing that. But the best pay is the ones that can come out of the pocket and not do it without, and do it without messing other people up or messing themselves up. Really, great song. Okay, so the amount that you're getting paid, yeah, I've had people ask me to sing one song and offer to pay me anywhere between $50 and $100. There's been times where you do one set and you might get $200. Depends on what the I've done cocktail hours for like fundraisers for like black tie events for like I don't know, it was a sports event in Long Island for like a Hall of Fame guys. It's football and I think there might have been another sport too. Either way, like that type of event, we made like $150 for 1 hour of playing jazz, and you just sit down and read your charts. It was great. If you know how to play jazz, you read the chord quality and you can get the feel of what the drummer's doing, and then you just you're merging those two together. Um, let's say it's an original artist. Original artist is probably going to give you closer to like 100 to 150 for like an hour if they can. Or it might be 90 minutes. But yeah, um, maybe an agency band might give 300 plus for like 3 hours. Depending on what type of gig it is also. Like agency, when you're doing a wedding, it's definitely going to be more. It should be more. It should be $300 to $400 um, minimum. Agency band, I should say, like more of a bar gig would be like $200 minimum. But it also depends on what state or what region you're in, and also how well your band is known, and do they have insurance and stuff like that. Okay. Also, you want to know the mode of the payment. Are you paying me in check? Are you trying to do Zelle or PayPal or whatever, Cash App and Venmo? Okay, and when is that happening? If you're getting a check, are you planning to get it from the venue that night? Because if they don't get it till that night, then they have to deposit into whatever their account or business account is, and then they have to wait for it to process, and then they can send it to you. So you need to talk about that in the beginning, so you have a clear expectation of when you're gonna get your money, not just your check. They might cut you a check too. You never know. Also, if you're doing multiple gigs, let's say it's 3 days, and there's 3 gigs in those days, or you might even have 5 gigs, like, one gig, and then two gigs on one day. where it's like 3 hours, and then later on in the day it's 3 hours, right? So let's say that's 4 gigs. You might have 4 gigs in 3 days. You might consider doing a deposit because you don't want someone to back out, and you reserve these 3 days where you could have booked other gigs. Also, it helps you to prepare for the gig. Sometimes there might be gas and toll that you incur on your way to the gig, and it's kind of just it just kind of even out the field. Because really, at the end of the day, when I'm playing a gig and I play and don't get paid until the end of the gig, I'm playing for credit. Like you know what I mean? Like there's a trust thing that has to happen there, and a lot of times you're playing for people that you've never met before. You don't know how they vibe, you don't know the other musicians, and you're taking a lot of risk on your end and hoping that they're gonna pay you in a timely manner and with integrity. And sometimes that's not fair. So there's nothing wrong with asking for a deposit if you're setting aside 3 days of your time and they're talking about, oh, we're gonna give you $200 to $300 per 3 hour section, and you're doing, 4 different gigs. So that's 4 times 3 is $1,200. All right, let me get $300 up front. So that kind of like ties us in. I might be tripping. Let me know. That's what I got to say. I hope you guys are safe on your gigs. Um, I hope that you communicate these things well. If you notice that your communication has caused someone to react or respond with a face like this, you might want to rethink what you said and rethink what you mean. Um, Unless you said exactly what you you needed to say, and they're having an adverse reaction totally based off their own opinions and experiences, and they may be right or wrong, but that's not the point. The point is that you guys find a mid ground where you're comfortable and then they're comfortable. And a lot of times it's difficult to have these conversations. People just want to book and go. They don't even want to go through the details and having discrepancies, and people don't like stress. But sometimes for you to have the standard of playing and the expectations that you need for you to perform well, or that's how I feel, I need to ask these questions and communicate these things so that I know and they know what my expectations are, and they have a fair chance to ask me similar questions so they can validate me. Blessings and peace.